The morning of August 6, 1945, seemed like any other in Hiroshima, until the sky erupted in a blinding flash. In mere seconds, the city was forever changed and the world entered a new, terrifying era. What happened that day not only altered the course of World War II, but also left an impact that still echoes through history. Let's explore the events, the aftermath, and the lessons learned from one of humanity's most devastating moments. The Shadows of Hiroshima. August 6, 1945. The day the sun screamed. The morning had started like any other. The people of Hiroshima went about their lives, unaware that death had already taken flight from the belly of a silver plane high above the city. Children laughed as they walked to school. Shopkeepers opened their stores, greeting customers with warm smiles. Housewives hung laundry to dry in the golden sunlight. Soldiers, oblivious to the doom creeping upon them, polished their boots and rifles. Then, at exactly 8:15 a.m., the sky shattered. A second sun was born, brighter than anything human eyes had ever seen. It burned through rooftops, through trees, through flesh. A silent flash, blinding, merciless, tore across the city before the air itself ignited. Then came the sound, a deafening roar, as if the heavens had cracked open and the gods were screaming. Buildings crumbled in an instant. Glass turned to liquid and rained down in molten droplets. People were flung through the streets like rag dolls, their bodies disintegrating mid-air. Shadows, mere echoes of men, women, and children, were burned into walls, frozen in their final moments of life. The blast reached the hills, sending firestorms rolling over the earth like an angry sea, and when the roar finally faded, the city was silent. Hiroshima had become a wasteland of charred corpses, twisted metal, and ruins that still smoldered under the sky. But the horror was far from over. Hours later, the survivors stumbled through the ruins, some blind, some hairless. They did not scream, they did not cry. They simply walked, dazed, their lips moving wordlessly. Some carried the remains of loved ones. When the bomb Little Boy detonated 600 meters above the city center, everything within a 2-kilometer radius was obliterated instantly. The air ignited at nearly 4,000 degrees Celsius, melting steel, turning buildings to ash, and vaporizing thousands of people where they stood. A shockwave followed, flattening the city and sending firestorms raging through the streets. There was only one instinct: escape. Those who could still walk staggered toward the few places that might offer relief, and one of them was the Mizuki Bridge, which spanned the Motoyasu River near the hypocenter. Eyewitnesses recall that the bridge quickly became a scene of horror. Thousands of people dragged themselves toward the water. Many jumped in, hoping to cool their burns, but the river was filled with floating corpses, and the radioactive fallout had poisoned the water. Some drank out of desperation and died shortly after. Then the black rain came. Thick, oily drops fell from the sky, coating the ruins, the corpses, and the skin of those still alive. It carried death, seeping into open wounds, poisoning the land, turning what little food and water remained into sickness. Then came the whispers. At first they were faint, like a breeze shifting through rubble, but soon they grew stronger. Survivors reported hearing voices calling their names from the ruins, soft, pleading. Some turned, expecting to see a friend or a family member, only to find empty streets. An old man named Kenji, whose entire family had been lost to the blast, spoke of a strange figure standing outside his collapsed home. It was a woman, her body blackened and charred beyond recognition, yet her lips moved, repeating his name over and over. When he took a step closer, the figure vanished, But that night, Kenji woke to the feeling of cold fingers brushing against his face. A whisper, just inches from his ear. "Come with me." People reported seeing shadows move unnaturally through the ruins, walking where there should be no ground to walk on. Some stood at the edges of collapsed buildings, their heads tilted unnaturally as if watching. Others drifted through the streets, their faces blurred, their bodies flickering like candlelight. A group of children playing near the river spoke of a woman in a tattered kimono who stood ankle-deep in the water, her face covered in burns, her eyes hollow sockets. She did not move. She did not blink. But as the children turned to run, she whispered something that chilled their bones. "Where is my baby?" One of the children, a boy named Haruto, was found the next morning, curled up on the riverbank, unresponsive. When he finally spoke, all he said was, "She's still looking." In the makeshift hospitals set up to treat the sick and dying, patients woke screaming in the night, clutching their throats as if unseen hands were choking them. Nurses whispered of beds that would be found empty in the morning, the sheets still warm but the patient gone, only a burned outline left where their body had been. A soldier patrolling the ruins at night reported seeing a woman kneeling in the rubble, rocking back and forth. He approached, calling out to her. She did not respond. When he shined his flashlight on her, his blood ran cold. She had no face, no eyes, no nose, no mouth, just smooth, burned skin where her features should have been. Many survivors suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, which can cause hallucinations, flashbacks, and vivid nightmares. Seeing ghosts could be a manifestation of their deep-seated trauma. But some say the past never truly left. Security cameras set up near the dome sometimes capture eerie figures standing in the ruins, figures that should not be there. Some tourists even claim to see shadows moving along the stone walls at night, as if the souls burned into them are finally trying to walk away. And in the quietest hours, when the city sleeps, a few still swear they hear the sound of distant footsteps. The dead still walk in Hiroshima. They are waiting, watching, and they will never be forgotten.